Today's episode of Vlogger's Choice is brought to you by technical difficulties. Hey WordNerds, happy Saturday. Sorry this is a little bit late getting up, but basically everything broke and I'm recording this video on makeshift webcam setup. I don't know. Anyways, this video is the first of a two-parter. The second one will come 2 Saturdays from now, and I'm going to kick things off with a confession. First off, I already know I have a problem, but this past year so far in 2016, I have read 103 books, which is a lot. So today I wanted to share with you guys the top 10 books I've read so far in 2016. Specifically, you'll be getting 5 of those in no particular order, with the other 5 coming 2 weeks from now. So let's jump right in. First up, we have Fablehaven by Brandon Mull. This is the first in a 5-book series. I don't actually read a lot of middle grade, but the concept for this was just too cool to pass up. Basically, 2 kids go to live with their grandparents for just a couple of weeks, and it turns out their grandparents run this haven for mystical creatures like fairies and trolls and all kinds of traditional fairy tale creatures, and all kinds of hijinks happen, and it's just a really cool story. I saw Brandon Mull speak at Y'all Fest last year, and I just thought he seemed like such a nice guy, so I wanted to read something of his books, and I'm so glad I picked this one because it was incredible. Next up, we have The Kickass Writer by Chuck Wendig. This is a book of 1001 writing tips, which is just a perfect read for those days where you need a kick in the pants when it comes to your writing. These are so funny, definitely a little bit adult at times, but Chuck Wendig is hilarious, and I would recommend all of his writing books because they just offer so many different ways of looking at things, different ideas, and just hilarity. This next favorite is going to shock absolutely no one and actually represents an entire series, and that is, of course, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I read this book for our book club earlier this year and then devoured the entire series because it was amazing, and I had so much fun fangirling about the series with the WordNerds because it's been so long since I've entirely fallen into a bookish world and fallen in love with these characters as hard as I fell in love with these ones because they are just everything. So yeah, it's safe to say if you haven't read this series yet, you are absolutely missing out. Then we have 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. This is an alternate universe type story. Basically, the main character's parents are very up on the science involved in skipping between alternate universes, and then the main character's father is murdered and she has to track down the guy who betrayed her family and killed her father, and all of the alternate universes in this book were just so cool. The main character, Marguerite, got to go to so many different versions of her own world, meeting people that were like the people she knew but not quite, or completely different from the world that she'd known, and that part alone had me completely falling in love with this story. But the characters were also really great and the world building was fantastic, so I am dying to read the next 2 books in this series because it absolutely wowed me with book 1. And finally, we have my most anticipated book for 2016, which thankfully came out right at the beginning, and that is Truthwitch by Susan Dennard. I had been looking forward to this book for so long, and it didn't disappoint. This is the first book in a new high fantasy series that centers around a friendship between 2 girls, which is what initially drew me to the series, but the magic and world building in this series is also really incredible. I don't want to give too much away. It was talked about a lot when this book first came out, but it really, really is worth reading, especially if you're looking for something a little bit different when it comes to the magic systems that you see, plus the main dynamic in the story being friendship-based rather than romance-based. This is absolutely worth a read. So yeah, that's it for part 1, but I have 5 other recommendations to give you in a couple of weeks because I really have been lucky enough to read so many great books so far in 2016. And of course, don't forget to join us tomorrow night for our live chat where we are talking about our writing processes and just kind of how we move along from concept to creation when it comes to building a story and writing a book. Hopefully we will see you all there. In the meantime, let us know in the comments what your favorite books of 2016 are so far, and I will absolutely check those out, and see you next time.